Welcome, it's Jackie from Cambridge Safety. Welcome to one of our Take 5 Minutes for Health and Safety. And in this session, we're just going to have a look at a COSHH assessment, the control of substances hazardous to health regulations, which require us to carry out assessments on the hazardous substances that we use. So COSHH requires us to ensure that before people work or are exposed to a hazardous substance, we've carried out a suitable and sufficient assessment. An interesting little thing about COSHH though, COSHH is about health hazards. These are ones that can affect you without you having had an accident, might lead to more chronic conditions, but equally, just to bring to your attention, the requirement to do a COSHH assessment is about the health of employees. So it's not about others or visitors or contractors, because health hazards are more likely to affect employees than other people, because they potentially could affect them on a more, when they're exposed to a substance on a more regular basis. So we're going to look at a suitable and sufficient assessment. So have we got any hazardous substances? It could be a liquid, it could be a gas, it could be a vapor. So a suitable and sufficient assessment. If you've got some low risk substances, we might do a very basic assessment. If we've got some higher risk substances, an in-depth one. And if we've got some very specific substances like wood dust and things like that, you can't put a finger in the air and identify how much dust and what type of wood it is. So you've got your specialist COSHH assessments as well. So we're going to take you through like the basic assessment. So then we're going to just take you through the basic assessment, and you could equally build on that to do the in-depth one. But again, whoever does a COSHH assessment needs to be competent. So sometimes you will look at a substance and think, actually, I don't know as much about that substance. It's a very high-risk substance. It might be that I need a more competent person to advise me on carrying out the assessment. So the first stage is to actually look at what hazardous substances have we got. So the nice easy one is ones that are in the form of liquids, they're in bottles, but have you got any gas? Have you got any processes like cutting wood and things like that that generate dust? You've got maybe substances that are produced by the process, so fumes, gases, vapors, residual products, even like emptying the photocopier toner. But equally, we're only going to look at hazardous substances, chemicals in this short video, but biological agents are also covered by COSHH, but you would do the assessment in a slightly different way. So what substances have we got? Now, I've mentioned asbestos on the end of that slide. Asbestos isn't covered by the control of substances hazardous to health because it's got its own set of regulations. So what substances have we got? What's used routinely? What's used on an ad hoc basis? Then when we do our assessment, I've divided it up into 4 little sections. And if you do it systematically, it means that you'll cover everything you need to. So we're going to look at the substance itself, how you're using it, the environment where it's being used, and they're going to then have a look at the people. So, and again, the higher the risk, the more factors we're going to look at, the lower the risk, less. Substance then. So what is the substance? What's its form? Is it a gas, a vapor? Does it change form? What's the concentration of the substance? Because it's more concentrated, it's going to be higher risk. If we know the form, we then can work out what's the route of entry. How's it going to get in the human body? Because if it's a gas or a vapor, we're going to breathe it in. If it's a liquid, it might splash onto our skin. What's the classification? Is it an irritant? Is it toxic? Is it corrosive? These are all things that we want to know. Does it have any ill health effects? And if it does have some ill health effects, are they acute, where they affect us immediately, or are they more chronic, where you don't actually feel anything, but over a period of time, it can be affecting you? We can look at the safety data sheet that comes with the substance, if it has a data sheet, and that isn't a COSHH assessment, but it will tell us some things about the substance, its hazards, its precautionary phrases, its constituent parts, these types of things. So this is not all the things that you look at, but it's a few of the things that you actually look at about the substance itself. If the substance has a workplace exposure limit, this is in EH40, some high risk substances have a limit, and we mustn't be exposed to more than that limit in either a 15-minute period or an 8-hour day. So it asks some questions about the substances that people are being exposed to. But it's not just the substance. Then we think about how's it being used, where is it being used? So use, what's the substance actually being used for? Is it a glue? Is it a paint? How is it being applied? So painting, you could paint with a brush, you could use a roller, it could be sprayed, and all of those different methods could increase or decrease the risk of someone being exposed. So how could exposure actually occur? If we're putting our photocopier toner into the photocopier and we don't come into contact with it, then the risk is low, even though it is a hazardous substance. How often is the substance being used? Is it daily, weekly, several times a day? How long are we using it? Are we exposed all day or just for a very short period of time? How many times, etc.? Because again, this is going to either increase the risk or reduce it. We've got substance A, substance B. If they're mixed together, our COSHH assessment needs to be on the mixture, not just on A and B. Are there any byproducts which are harmful? So one cleaner puts bleach down the toilet, another cleaner puts SIF down the toilet, you get some chlorine gas. So it's the byproducts that's more hazardous than the individual substances. So we're asking some questions about how they're being used, because that could increase or decrease the risk level. So then we go, the environment. Some people don't think about the environment, but when you're using a hazardous substance, practical things about the environment could either increase the risk or decrease it. So things like are using it indoors or outdoors. If it's outdoors, the ventilation is going to be better, so you're likely to be exposed to less. Is the area well ventilated already? Or is it a confined space? If you go into a sewer or a silo, because it's a confined space, you can be exposed to more. Is it likely to mix with other substances in the air? So then you're going to get a synergistic, a mixed effect. What's the lighting like? A practical thing, if you can't see what you're doing, you're more likely to spill the substance. What's the flooring like? If it's uneven and you slip and trip, you can spill the substance on yourself or other people. If it's cluttered, again, more likely to spill the substance. So we've looked at the substance, the environment, and the use. Then it's the person, the who, because health and safety is about protecting people. So we're going to look at some personal factors. So how many people are using the substance? Is it just the user, or is it other people in the area are exposed? Have you got vulnerable people, so our young people, pregnant or nursing mothers, somebody who already has got an ill health condition, so they might already suffer from dermatitis or allergic reactions. So if you expose them to this substance, they could be at greater risk. The number of people, is it just one or is it 100 people? More people, higher risk level. Are there any synergistic effects? And synergistic effects mean certain employees might be at greater risk. So if you already suffer from an allergy and we expose you to something that causes allergic reactions, that's called what we call a synergistic effect. 1 + 1 equals a more serious effect. If we are doing any health surveillance under the who's at risk, we would look at the results. Now, I can't look at your personal results, but I do have the right to see anonymized, right, we've done lung function tests on 50 people. These are the results. Because if we don't look at that information, we could be saying, actually, it's safe, and then finding that 50% of our staff are experiencing lung problems or skin problems, etc. So we've got a range of factors to consider under who is at risk, which could all increase or decrease the risk of someone becoming ill at work. We do our COSHH assessment, and I've just done a very quick potted tour there, but the most important thing is then once we've done our COSHH assessment, then we've got the next stage, which I'm not covering in this video. The next stage is then what can we do to control, eliminate, avoid and reduce the risk, so far as is reasonably practicable, of people getting ill health associated with the chemicals or hazardous substances that they are encountering at work. So thanks very much for watching. It's Jackie Cambridge, a potted tour in terms of a suitable and sufficient COSHH assessment. That's the control of substances hazardous to health.